Hello, my fellow phantom troublemakers. Thanks to your messages, I started thinking about authenticity and safety. I noticed that the reason I feel authentic is probably when I feel safe. And then I started asking myself, what is that safety actually? And why do I feel it in some cases and not in others? Social intimacy is something that makes you feel comfortable. I can only feel comfortable in social intimacy when I feel safe. And some of you guys said that authenticity is also the inauthentic parts of us, which I totally agree on because it belongs to us and it tells a story about us. I really like that thought. Maybe authenticity isn't like a personality trait, like that person is authentic and that person isn't. It's like more of a state that appears when safety is given. I thought of safety in different forms, such as physical safety, like having food and shelter, or maybe even muscles, being strong and being able to survive, and the absence of physical threats. And then psychological safety, not being attacked or humiliated, just being able to be yourself without any pressure. Vulnerability without having severe consequences. That led me to safety and control. When somebody said that a person is in need of control, in my mind I imagined somebody controlling other people, but control can be seen in many different forms. Controlling your environment, having your room cleaned, your own body, the way you walk, the way you speak, and to some degree also your thoughts and your reactions. But do we feel safe because we have a sense of control? Or do we feel safe because we trust ourselves to handle what happens? Is that also a form of self-control? I noticed that the more I try to control my own behavior, the unsafer I usually feel. Does the control help me in any form? I would say not really. So if you're in full control, you have responsibility for your own actions, which is a form of freedom. That means the desire for control would be a desire for freedom. That had me thinking about the locus of control, which describes the feeling of the person's ability to have control of a situation, if they would say it's due to external or internal factors. Now comes a dark thought, but what if we feel safe if we don't care to die anymore? Sometimes when I feel really down or low and I don't really care about anything, then I feel less anxious. But is feeling safe the same thing as not caring about anything because we're gonna die anyways? Because if you don't care, you're probably less fearful. And when there's no fear, there's no need for security. And that led me to think about external versus internal safety. One person commented on having a very good support system, and that would be a form of external safety. The internal safety would be being able to trust yourself, emotional resilience, and self-acceptance. So I asked myself, if external safety creates internal safety, I think it's very important to think about the biological side as well. There's also the nervous system, which sometimes I feel like is a parasite sitting on me, controlling the way I act, even though I think and feel different in my mind. When the body's absolutely freaking out and you're anxious as hell, the body just decides to go in fight, flight, or freeze mode. And it feels like you can't do anything about it. Even though my brain knows, hey, this is absolutely stupid. Why am I doing this? Sometimes I have the feeling the more I try to regulate my nervous system, the worse things get. And now the influence of thoughts and safety. It's not only what others think of you, it's also the way we interpret the world and our abilities to cope with it. How much safety is actually created by our interpretation? Can we try to force ourselves to interpret the world and the things that happen in a good way that makes us feel safe, or at least it should, but then it doesn't actually do anything? Congruence would be the step that causes ourselves to believe our thoughts. So if my thoughts and words align with my feelings and actions with values, I guess it's easier to feel safe if there's less internal conflict. So maybe the question isn't how do I become myself, but under which condition do I feel safe enough to be myself? I mean, in the end, it's probably all factors mixed up together, interwoven, and maybe even more I haven't thought about, which can provide safety. It just seems so wild that I'm walking around through the city. I have my headphones in. I'm listening to music that makes me feel good, and I'm listening to the words that are reflecting my own emotional state, and maybe even bringing me into a new emotional state, and I feel good. And as soon as I take out my headphones, it's like a light switch. People start to talk with me, then suddenly I feel a flood of insecurity running over me that I can't even control. In those moments, I always wish I could feel as confident as I felt while listening to music. But I can't just listen to music while talking to people. That would be weird. And I can't always run around having like a hot stone on my chest, or I don't know. Maybe safety is just getting used to things. Safety is in having routines. Which would make sense with predictability. I used to be a stewardess with social anxiety, which is really funny if you think about it. I thought working as a stewardess would help me overcome that situation. And I would say it gave me some social skills, but that feeling of safety didn't really form. That would mean it's the quality of social interaction and social intimacy, the level of social intimacy you can achieve. This is a very personal topic, and I can understand that most aren't comfortable talking about such things. I would still like to know if there's anything that made you feel more safe in your life. I really appreciate you for being open.